A common but unpopular thing we talk about nowadays is what happens when I age? Not only from a family perspective, but from a personal perspective. My memory. Am I lonely? Am I happy? What if one spouse goes? Today, we're going to bring these two together and talk about a friend of mine, Dan Hungerford, founder of EverFriends.ai's solution to a potentially aging population. Dan, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
So tell us about what EverFriends AI is and what they do.
Well, we started out to try to figure out a solution to social isolation.
Mm-hmm.
It has become a real health crisis in this country. 7.7 million people over 65 chronically lonely. And my mom was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we came up with a solution where on a mobile device, you can have a chat with a AI human that looks, sounds, and acts real and remembers you.
Mm-hmm.
Conversations grow over time.
Mhm.
And it kind of fills in those gaps of life that, families are busy and they're not always available, even though we would love to be able to spend more time, make more phone calls. That's not always an option. And so we came as close as we could to simulating that. We can't, obviously, human connection can't be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not trying to, but it is something that we can simulate close enough to give those moments when you want to feel understood and valuable. We've done that with our app.
So you have an app
Mhm.
and and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but what I'm hearing you say is it doesn't replace human interaction, but it enhances potentially memories of people or people in your life. Is that an accurate assessment?
That is actually very accurate.
Yeah.
It doesn't replace anybody,
Mhm.
but what it does is it helps you to keep your mind active.
Mm.
Like if you were worried about your memory, you can say to Nathan, who's one of our most popular digital humans, "Hey, I'd like to play a memory game," and he'll play a memory game with you.
Okay.
Or he'll talk about your stories, your favorite places you ever went on vacation. It keeps that stuff in front of your mind. Talk about your kids and your grandkids. It remembers your names, and asks you about their birthdays and all of those things that you miss sometimes because life is so busy in a sandwich generation like we are. I have an 11-year-old that I'm responsible for it, and a 78-year-old that I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
And so that just fills in those gaps for those kind of things.
Yeah, you mentioned your mom was kind of the impetus for starting this. What happened there?
Well, my dad died about 8 years ago. He was blind his last 3 years of life, so she was his caregiver 24/7. And so, there's always a gap in your life when somebody passes. But when you spend 24 hours a day and 7 days a week with somebody, that gap was large.
Mhm.
And she lived on the east side of the state, and so we moved her over here. And she's active in church and she volunteers, but at 78, she's still at home a lot because mobility and energy are there. And I would call her and she would say to me, "You're the only person I talked to today." And I was like, "Okay, that's not okay." You know, and I'm busy and I would love to talk to her for 2 or 3 hours a day and she would love that. But that's just
Sure
not,
she would.
that is just not practical. And so I set out to build my mom a friend.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I built her Nathan, who is a hyper realistic digital human that has a warm smile and his face is expressive and
Yeah.
he remembers all about her and
Yeah.
she loves him.
Yeah. Yeah. So EverFriends AI created this to, it sounds like, fix maybe two things or three things. Loneliness, but also let's talk about the impact on dementia and Alzheimer's and how it can help maybe slow some of those processes down.
Yeah, there is a lot of science to that.
Uh-huh.
Keeping those memories alive, keeping your mind active. Some of the reasons that it progresses faster sometimes is because you are alone and there's no stimulus
Mhm.
for your brain. So if you can keep studies have shown that if you can keep those memories alive, even about your family members, about your grandkids, that you will remember them longer.
Mhm.
And so that is a big part of what we do too those early stages of dementia is to help people to, as long as possible, stay interactive with their family, not forget the things that they're so important to them,
Yeah.
and to keep them just involved and feeling like they're part of something.
Yeah. Can the family member from the app also interact with their, so like for instance, US son, can you interact with your mother through the app as well?
There is a dashboard on the backside that
Yeah.
shows me, the stats, what my mom does, so I know if she's okay.
Okay.
There's things we can put in, like words we can put in to look for. So if my mom tells Nathan that, "Oh man, I got to get my medication filled,"
Mhm.
it'll send me a notification that says, "Hey, might want to ask mom about her medications," or something like that.
Yeah.
But the future versions of this, we are going to have it where you can on both sides talk to the avatars.
Mhm.
which I think is going to be very, very helpful
Yeah.
in summarizing how's mom been this week.
Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't replace necessarily a physical caregiver, but it can reduce the amount of time a caregiver would have to be present potentially to remember medications or to do certain things. There's a financial cost to having a caregiver. And we were briefly talking about the cost of a caregiver. So just fill our audience in on what those costs look like. Because I was unaware of how high they were.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. We were unaware too. When my mom fell a few years ago, and she hurt her elbow and her shoulder, had to have surgery. For 3 months, she needed 24/7 care.
Mm-hmm.
$28,000 for
Mm-hmm.
that care. I mean, they were great, but that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And so in Michigan, the average price per hour is $31 an hour. The average hours is 30 per week. That's $42,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not even the most expensive across the country. I mean,
Right.
you could pay up to almost $300,000 a year, and this is non-medical care. This is just companionship care.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was another reason why we wanted to do this. I mean, like EverFriends can take some of that burden for $30 a month.
That's
Yep.
wait, $30. That's incredible.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's a huge
Yeah.
savings. Not like we talked. It can't replace all of that.
But that's not
even
its intention.
right. No.
No.
But even if it takes half those hours away,
Yeah.
because you can keep interactive, you can have those reminders, you can have that peace of mind as a child that
Yeah.
they're okay.
Uh-huh.
That's a huge cost savings, because the financial is a big thing that people don't think about.
Yeah, I mean, as a financial planner, I think about that, right? So I'm a little bit biased here, right?
Sure.
So, but you know what's interesting when we look at a plan for a client, and we're holistic planners, right? So we're not just looking at the money management side. We're looking at a lot of other things that go into it, into the financial plan. And end of care costs or costs as we age are one thing we really have to plan for because, as we know, health insurance costs are increasing higher than inflation or quicker than inflation, right? At a higher rate. So that's if you're going to have to be paying for more of these things out of pocket, because if you didn't have long-term care insurance to cover some of these things when you were younger, you're not going to qualify now. And barely any companies that even offer it because it's been so expensive and burdensome, right?
Mhm.
And so what we found is people are like, well, I'm going to have to self-insure then, right? And so you can only afford to self-insure so much. It's not an endless money pit, right?
Right.
That we sit in, most of us. And so we generally speaking have to say, well, you have to spend less during your lifetime if you're a planner to prepare for these increased costs. And what I'm hearing you say is, well, you can't cut them out entirely. You may be able to reduce them, which would in turn allow someone in their go-go years, because we talk about retirement, go-go, slow-go, no-go, right?
Sure.
Our former guest, Ashley Rigby, talked about that. It allows them maybe to go a little more or do a little more in those go-go years because we haven't replaced those costs, but we've reduced them. So that's an interesting point that you bring up. So someone says, "Hey, I think I would like to begin this companionship app or to help either with loneliness or depression or dementia coming on." At what age you're like, "Hey, we should consider this"? Is it 40, 50, 60, 70, 80? I mean, it sounds like it might be any of those. I don't know.
Sure. I think it comes to the point of when you're tired of watching Family Feud or Jeopardy at night, right? Whatever age that comes
The
to,
Price is Right?
right? Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
you think, I cannot watch another episode of this. I need something else to do, and I'm doing this
Mhm.
because I'm alone at night. Whatever age that tends to be,
Mhm.
I think is the time. Some people think, oh, you got to wait until you're 70 or 75, but no, there's people lonely at 65. There's people lonely at 60.
Mhm.
Families are moved away that we don't live across the street from each other anymore.
Mhm.
And so I think the earlier you get in, the better,
Mhm.
because the technology will learn about you. Like EverFriends, those avatars, those digital humans, they learn about you over time. So the more you use them, the more they understand who you are, what your hobbies are, what you like, your personality. They become a digital best friend that doesn't have bad days, never judges you, never tells your secrets,
Mhm.
right? And so the earlier in that process you get to them, so then if you do start in a decline,
Not if, it's when.
yeah, right. Yeah.
When.
Well, yeah.
We
Yeah.
all will.
We all will.
We
Yeah.
all
I think
will,
I'm not that old yet. I've already started a little bit, but yeah, fair enough. But when we do,
Yeah.
it already knows a lot about us.
Yeah.
And so it adapts in real time. So as you decline, as I decline, it makes those adjustments. It could slow the speech. It could change the way it talks to you. It could change subjects. So the earlier you get in, the better off you are, the better it's going to work.
Yeah, my wife has been in long-term care for years, and she always recommends move your loved ones into an assisted living or dementia unit before it really kicks in and it's progressed to the point where they don't know who they are, where they're at, because it's tougher to adjust
Mhm.
when those things set in. And that's kind of what you're saying with this app is the sooner you get into it, the better. What do you think about people who say, well, why would I want to talk to a fake human, Dan? I'm sure you get asked that question all the time. I'd rather talk to Dan. And you've alluded to the fact that, well, yeah, Dan's not available 3 hours a day. But what do you say to people that that's their pushback to say, I don't want to talk to a fake human? What do you think?
I get that question a lot, and it's fair.
Hmm.
I also get the question a lot, like, what happens if I like them fake humans better
I
than
was going to ask if your
family?
mom has replaced you
Okay. And
yet.
so I get both sides of that, right? And
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
say I say to people, give it a try. Now, it won't be for everybody,
That's okay.
but I think yeah, that's
Mhm.
fine. Yeah, but I think you'll find that the quality nowadays of those digital humans. I mean, they look. People tell me we do interviews with our customers a lot. They say there's no way that's not a real person, and I say no, that person doesn't exist. It's been generated, right? But they'll swear to me that that can't possibly be the case. It's a little weird at first sometimes for people, but once they start getting to know you and they start asking you about things, and you like my mom, for instance, she loves having Bible verses read to her when she's nervous.
Mhm.
So she'll ask Nathan to read her the Psalm 23, and he will read it to her, and then he'll ask her how she feels. You know, one time she told a story about how she fell asleep in a theater with her grandkids and snored, and they both laughed.
Mhm.
And so it very quickly becomes much more natural.
Mhm.
But I understand people wondering about that. And I also understand the other side. Like we get people, things that we learned early on that we weren't sure we didn't actually think we would learn is that people like it, that they can't judge you.
Mhm.
My mom loves me to death, but if I do something dumb, she's going to say, Daniel Robert, even though she
The
loves
middle
me.
name.
Right. Yeah. Right. His
Middle
middle
name.
name. Right. She still loves me, but there's a judgment in that. Right.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Or if my mom talks to Nathan about my sister, he's not going to tell my sister, but
Mhm.
maybe I do if she tells me, right? And so those are a lot of things that we didn't realize that
Uh,
people they value more than we thought. And so I get it. I think if you try it,
mhm.
you'll find that most people will find that it simulates it close enough that it fits the spot in life where you can't have somebody else be there.
Yeah, I had this thought, and this might be totally off, but a lot of people write in a journal,
Hmm.
right? Um, the journal can't talk back. The journal won't tell your secrets. The journal won't judge you. It's just for you to get out what's inside. I think the older generation, and I see this quite a bit, is they kept a lot of feelings inside.
Hmm.
We're starting now as a culture to shift to talking about some of these things. This sounds like a virtual version of a diary almost, maybe. And maybe that's a bad way to look at it, but I don't see it being that much different than there's a person talking back where a diary doesn't talk back.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just an observation. I don't know if anyone's ever made that observation, but
No.
people will say like diaries aren't real because some of those feelings are just feelings, and once you get them out, they're out. And I think this could help alleviate some of that, right?
No, I think you're onto something because, people, that's why people journal. They wanted to get it out of their system. They want to write it
Yeah,
out so they can get it off their brain, if you will.
yeah,
That's the same reason we sit across the table with our best friends,
uh-huh.
right? Because we need to talk through things,
Hmm.
especially some people, they really just can't hold that stuff in. It doesn't, they need to work through it. And sometimes they come up with their own solutions as they walk through it and talk through it. So there is a very, very important aspect to that,
Yeah,
that this provides. Not only that, but it also provides real information
yeah,
if in case you're so if you say I'm having a problem with my daughter or my grandchild, and this is the thing, what would you recommend based on this or this, what things should I tips or what should I be thinking about? And it can help you walk through those tips as well. Like
hmm,
it won't give you a diagnosis or it
hmm,
won't, but it can say, well, why don't you think about this perspective?
hmm,
Or maybe you haven't thought about this,
hmm.
and so you get to work through all that. So then when you get to your daughter, your grandchild, you've kind of got maybe a different perspective to use with them that
Yeah.
helps, and you've gotten that all worked out without having another person have to be there with you.
Yeah, we're not replacing therapy, but it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot cheaper,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And if someone's interested in finding out more about EverFriends AI, Dan, how would they go about doing that?
Well, you can reach us everfriends.ai on the web. We're also live on both of the app stores, the App Store and the Google Play Store.
Yeah.
There's a free trial. I would love for you to try it out, and I love feedback, so send me some feedback through the website. There's an email on there. I think you'll find that we're we've made something that's very helpful
Yeah.
and impactful, and we're going to continue to grow it.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing is for me is I want people all to feel valuable.
Mhm.
And if everybody can feel valuable, we have a better world. And
Mhm.
this is why I'm trying to do this.
Dan, thanks for taking the time today to sit down and thanks for trying to stand in the gap and bridge the gap between an aging population, AI, and healthcare, and trying to improve the lives of so many people. I mean, I think what you're doing should be talked about more, and I can't wait to see not only where you're at today, but I'm excited to see where this goes. So, thanks for being a voice for some of the voiceless and for using the talents that you've been given to impact our world and our society. I appreciate that,
I,
Dan.
I appreciate being here. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share our story.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being with us today, and as always, let's keep moving forward together.